Hi there, it's me, Joel again. I just want to today I just want to cover a little bit briefly on the GS300. It's the Lexus GS300. I think it's the one that, I think the 97 or 98 through to 2001, 2002 model. The one with the 2JZ, it's inline 6 non-turbo engine. I just want to cover basically the timing belt and doing the seals, the cam seal, crank seal, or both cam seals and the crank seal, and what to do, how to do it correctly, because I recently ran into a problem with it at work. The car had to sit for like 2 weeks because I had to order a crank gear from Japan because I broke one little tooth off the gear. The car wouldn't start. So I just want to cover what to do, which tools to use, and basically just put you on the right path, because if you do a couple of things wrong with this car, you're going to end up with big problems. And I've seen a lot of people online, because after I made a little boo-boo on this car, I went online to do a bit of research, and I found a lot of people had made the same mistake and got very confused with the timing marks, and basically the car ran like absolute crap after they'd done what they were doing, DIY guys. Even a lot of Lexus technicians have had the same problem. Bent valves on the engine and buggered, messed up. Had to remove the cylinder head and all that kind of stuff, and had to get someone else to end up doing the job for them. So I just want to quickly, I've got a little printout here and a little drawing that I've made of the timing marks. So on the crank gear itself, you've got a dot and a cutaway. On the top two cam gears, you have a dot and a cutaway. There's a black plate, okay, where the timing marks are for the cam gears at the top. There's a mark there, there's a mark there. On the crank, at the bottom by the crank, there's a dot on the oil pump housing. Okay, the cutaways and the gears are the TDC marks. The dots that you see are the BTDC marks. So what you got to do is, I wouldn't waste my time following the book, because the book says that you must line it up to TDC, which are the cutaways, and then what you got to do is turn the engine back counterclockwise and line up the dots to put it at BTDC. I don't know why they say that to you, but I think it's got something to do with setting up this VVti Gear, because it's got a 30-degree play on it. I don't know why it is, but I've set it up hundreds of times. Well, I've probably done 4 or 5 of these cam belts and these seals maybe once or twice. But I just followed the TDC marks, the cutaways. You don't need to do it the way the book says. So okay, but the reason I'm making this video is because I had to wait. I've actually got a sample of it here, of the gear that I broke. Here's the crank gear at the bottom. Okay, as you can see, the cutaway is this one here on the pickup. You can see the cutaway there, a bit dark, and here's the dot. That's BTDC, that's TDC. After I'd done the cam seals and the crank seals, put everything back together, full coolant, everything was 100%, the marks had lined up 100%, the job was done. I started the car and it didn't want to start. It just refused to start. I swung it maybe 20-30 times, it just didn't want to start. Everyone said to me the timing's off, that's why it didn't want to start. Okay, that wasn't the reason. My timing was 100%. According to the book, it was 100%. What I did wrong was, I broke a tooth off the crank gear when I pulled it off when I was doing the bottom seal. With this gear here, it's got a pickup here on the back. It's welded on it. It's solid with the gear. When you're taking this gear off, you got to use a gear puller. I pried it off with a pry bar. This car had 250,000 kilometers on it. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's 150,000 miles or whatever. I'm not exactly sure in miles what that is. But this gear was stuck on really hard, and I pried it out. Why this gear broke off, okay, it might have been sort of okay prying it out, but I wouldn't do it ever again. There's also a locking plate on the block housing, just below the gear, just to the right, below to the right. So before you take the gear off, once the belt's off and all that, and you're just left with a gear, you're doing the seal now, there's a locking plate with a size 10mm bolt actually locking this gear on just in front of it. You got to take that plate off. I didn't even see it there. I've never actually done these seals before. So that basically that plate has to come off. Sorry, I've done seals in other cars before, and it's other Lexus, and it's turned out fine, like the IS250, the GS300. But in this older model, I've never done the seals before. So there's a locking plate there that you've got to take off first, because if you pry this gear off, or even if you're using the right tool and you're pulling it out, that plate gets in the way, and what it does is it'll snap a tooth off, because it's roughly about this size. Okay, you've got to take that plate off, leave it one side, and then get the tool on and pull this off, and then do your seal with the correct tool for the seal as well. I just use the regular screwdriver. I know how to do it. I've done it hundreds of times. I know how to do it correctly without, and I know how to put it back correctly without even using the special tools. There's simple ways of doing it. You just take a mallet, a rubber mallet with, obviously you get the perspex side of it and you get the rubber side. Just knock it in with the rubber side. Tap, 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 even, and it'll go in. Or you can buy the special tool. It's like a big socket type thing that you knock it on with. But then you need quite a few of those, because all seals are all different sizes. I don't know if you get an adjustable one, but I just usually just tap it on evenly, slowly, and just make sure you're tapping on the outside of the seal so you don't damage the inner rubber piece of the seal, the center piece. So I had to wait for 2 weeks. Normally it's 3 to 4 weeks, but I waited 2 weeks. They done a special order for me on this gear because the customer needed his car back urgently. So it took 2 weeks to get this back, and this was causing the whole car not to start. Everyone was saying to me, adjust the timing. I did adjust the timing, put this back on, or put the belt back on. The car was backfiring through the intake and all types of stuff. I was stressed out as hell. I couldn't even sleep for a few days, weeks actually. So don't adjust your timing. If your marks are lining up according to this, don't adjust your timing. Look at this first, because I'm sure you've broken a tooth off this gear. Or you haven't put a coil pack wire on properly, or you've swapped the coil pack or something like that. Because when you're doing this, the right way to do it is not to take off these gears with an impact wrench with the belts on. It's not the right way. Never use an impact wrench except on this bolt over here, the crank bolt. You've got to take the throttle body off and bit of the intake off. You've got to take the 2 valve covers off, the 2 tappet covers. To take each gear off, this is a size 17 bolt. Okay, and this side these are Allen keys. You need special Allen key sockets for this. I think the front ones are 14, and the inner one that locks the whole gear onto the onto the camshaft is a 10. I went out and bought them. They weren't too expensive. They're about $10 each, or 100 Rand each, whatever currency you're working with. So what you do is you take the valve covers off. Okay, obviously the belt is off now. Everything's set at TDC. You get an assistant to lock the cam shafts, because there's a hexagon part of the cam shaft that allows you to put a spanner on, a size 32 spanner. You get someone to assist you to lock the spanner on there, and you open up the size 17 on the exhaust side. The first one here will be a size 14, which is the seal for the VVti Gear. And the one on the end, you must turn the gear once you've got that seal off. Get all the oil out of this gear. Put a rag underneath the gear. Turn the gear. If the gear becomes free, push out all the oil that's in the gear. Because this whole gear runs on oil pressure. Once there's oil inside this gear, it basically locks. Okay, get someone to assist you. Never use an impact wrench Never on either one of these. Always, it's easy to take the valve covers